Kadosh Boker Or. Masechet Ketubot Daf Samech Amud Aleph 60A1. Says the Gemara Ad Kama. How much does a child have to be in order that he should know his mother and that he's not going to come and start feeding from another woman? Okay, so one more time. You remember we were talking about one of the obligations that a woman has. It's actually a machloket. But Shammai says no, but according to Bet Hillel, it was an obligation a woman has is to feed her child, right? To nurse her child. So says the Gemara, what's going to happen right now if he would not feed from another mother? So therefore we said, what can he do? He would have to pay her. Let's say he divorces her. So he would have to pay her, but he could force her that she's the one that has to feed the child. So says the Gemara, Ad Kama, until when is the child going to recognize the mother that he will not come and feed from another woman? So Amar Rav Yirmiyah, but Rav Amar says Rav name of Yirmiyah, Rav name of Rav, Shlosha Chodashim, 3 months. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says even from 30 days. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Yochanan says Rabbi Yitzchak name Yochanan, 50 yom, 50 days. So Amar Vashimi Bar Abaye says Shimi Bar Abaye, halacha is like Rabbi Yitzchak in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that it's going to be 50 days. Now from 50 days, we're going to say that he recognizes the mother and he does not want to feed from another woman. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, I understand Rabbi and Rabbi Yochanan, what does that mean? Every child, according to his sharpness, some children are very sharp, some children are not. So therefore, you could have the one that is after 50 days and somebody that's not going. So it's going to be 3 months. But Shmuel, what's the case of Shmuel? Because Shmuel was the one, right, that he said 30 days. I understand Rav, 3 months. 3 months is 90 days. I understand Rabbi Yochanan 50 days, but I guess it could be that's, it all depends. Sometimes, you have some children which are much sharper than others. They start, smiling before others. They start looking before others. So it all depends. I understand. But what's the middle ground, which is Shemuel, that he says 30 days. 30 days is very early. So says the Gemara, right? Kiyata Rami bar Yecheskel amar. Rabbi Yecheskel came and said, Lo tetzitunu lani klale de kayil Yehuda achi mishmeh de Shmuel. Don't come and listen to that which Yehuda comes and he says in the name of Shmuel. Why? Hachi amar Shmuel. This is what Shmuel says. Kol zman shemakira. There's no shiur. You have to check. Does the child know its mother or not? Yeah. So if he knows its mother, you could force her to come and to nurse the child. If he does not or she does not, so then that's it. It all depends on the child, and then that's it. So don't come and start paying attention to days. It's not to do with days. Does he recognize or not recognize the mother? There was a story that somebody that came in front of Shemuel. We're talking about, again, a grusha, obviously, a divorced woman. Because remember, if we're not talking about a divorced woman, anyway, she's obligated to feed her child. We're talking about that she got divorced, right? And the fact that she got divorced, now, right, does she have to give him to eat or not? So, Elmaleh Rav Dimi bar Yosef, right? Shmuel went and he said to Rav Dimi bar Yosef, Zil Badka, go check if the child comes and knows and recognizes the mother or not. Go check him. Azal Otva Bedare Dinashi. So he went and he put him in a shura of women. So imagine, he put an entire row of women, right? V'shakle lebra, he took the child, kamad lelayu, and he started passing them down one by one. Kimata legaba, once he got to his mother, havat kamesa velapa, he was looking at her. So, right? So she tried to turn away her face from him, right? Amarla, he says, netof enaich, pick up your eyes, because he already recognized you. Kum dari berech, go and take your child because you're obligated to. Meaning she was trying to get out of nursing her own child, right? But she didn't want to nurse the child. So therefore she was looking away. But the second that the child got to her lap, the child picked up his eyes and was looking at her. And he didn't do that to any other woman until now, right? Because they put her, I guess, in the middle or whatever it is. Obviously it wasn't the first one that he put her in, right? So then to try to check out the child. So once they recognized that, what happened was he said, no, it's already too late. Why? That's it. There's nothing else what to do. Yeah? Fine. So it says, ask the Gemara, Suma minayada. What about a Suma now? Suma is a blind baby. So if it's a blind baby, how does he know that it's his mother now? So Ravashi says, Berecha of ta'ama, with its smell and with its taste. What does that mean? With the smell and the taste of the chalav, that he's actually something that comes out that every woman has a different taste.
For sure.
Yeah, you understand? That means every single woman has a different taste because then the child will taste. It's not like, everyone would think, no, breast milk is all the same taste. No, every single woman is different, but the child will be able to differentiate his mother from another just with the smell and the taste of it, right? And by the way, you should know that this also the doctors do know that usually a blind person they will have stronger senses in other senses, which means even though they are blind, so they're missing one of the six of the five senses, but the other ones are stronger, so they'll have a stronger sense of smell, a stronger sense of taste, right? Accordingly. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the right. Yonek tinok veolech ad 24 chodesh. Imagine right now we are on Samech Amud Aleph. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. Okay, right now, right, we're by the two dots. Yonek tinok, you have it? I don't know, 15 lines down. I don't know. I didn't count. Tanu Rabbanan, the two dots. The last word on the line is two dots, right? So it's the first one is Tanu Rabbanan. Okay, so Tanu Rabbanan, we learned on a Braita. Yonek tinok veolech ad 24 chodesh. So which means like this. Until when is it permitted to come and to feed a child? So therefore it says over here 24 months. That means until 2 years, it's okay. After 2 years, it's something disgusting. So it's like something, you understand, which means that the rabbis prohibited for the child to continue nursing. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yoshua says, no, what are you talking about? Even until 4 or 5 years. Piresh. If they separated, which there was a pasek, there was a stop, then after 24 months, right, then it's like, which means like this. Within the 2 years, you could always feed. And even if you stopped in the middle for whatever reason, you could start again, no problem. After 2 years, if you start again, meaning let's say it passed 2 years and you stopped, and now you start again, then it's like your neck sheds. Okay? More says, Mikam va'elach, after this, it's kunek sheret. So we have a contradiction. Yachol ye chalev me'al cheshtayim. I would have thought to say that the chalav of the isha is ma'alecha b'shtei raglayim is tameh. Meaning, remember, what's the difference between a woman and an animal? An animal goes on 4. A woman goes on 2. So I would have thought to say that the chalav, right, the milk of a me'al cheshtayim, of somebody that goes on 2 legs, which is a woman, is tameh. Right? V'dinu, when it should be a kal v'chomer. Just like the animal. You were mekel in the touching of it, that as long as it's alive, it's not mitama b'maga. Meaning, if you have an animal that becomes tameh and it's alive, it's not mitama b'maga. If you touch it, you're not tameh. But you are going to be machmir in its chalav, that you're not allowed to drink from it. Okay? So he comes and he says, right, for example, the gamal or all those other things. So adam sheichmarta b'mago, but a human being that you are mitameh b'maga, meaning, for example, let's say she's a nida, so it's mitameh. So therefore, enodin shetachmi b'chalavo. So therefore, you shouldn't be machmir also in the chalav of a woman. Talmud Lomar comes to teach you that the gamal kimale gerahu hu tameh. The gamal is going to be tameh. Ve'en chalav melchesh time tameh. But the chalav of a woman that goes on 2 is not going to be tameh. Ela tahor. So yachol lotzi et chalav she'eno shaveh b'kul. So I would say, you know what? Maybe the chalav is not part of the yisur because the yisur of the chalav is not shaveh by everybody. Because chalav be'emot is tahor. You're allowed to drink cow's milk. Cow's milk is a be'emat teorah. So he says, "V'lo tzi et adam," and I'm not going to take out the dam. Because dam adam should be from the asur. Shu shaveh b'kul, it's going to be shaveh and everything. Meaning you're not allowed to drink blood. Doesn't matter whether it's blood from a pure animal or an impure animal. Meaning a kosher animal, not a kosher animal. But the milk is different. So Talmud Lomar tameh hu tameh. Then dameh al cheshtayim tameh elator. Also, the blood of a human being is also tahor, right? Ve'amar of Shishat, and says of Shishat, afilu mitzah prisha imbo. Do you know that there's not even a mitzah prisha derabanan from chalav adam? Which means the rabbis didn't even make it derabanan. That means there's no isur whatsoever, right? You're allowed to come and you're allowed to have it. So it comes out that chalav em is not going to be. So why did the Braita say that after 2 years it's going to become asur miderabanan? The rabbis never made any prohibition against chalav em. Chalav em, milk of a woman, is 100% permitted, just like blood of a human being is permitted. Remember, the only reason why blood is prohibited of a human being, meaning I cannot put blood in this cup and drink it of a human being. The only reason why, it's only Suda Rabbanan. Because maybe it looks like a blood of an animal. Really, be'emet, blood of a human being is permitted. There's no isur of a blood. What? Yeah, there's no problem. You could drink blood of a human being. Right? Don't get any wild ideas of being a vampire. Yeah, but mitzad, right? Mitzad halacha, there's no problem. So answers the Gemara, it's not a contradiction. Why is it not a contradiction? La kashya, hade parish, hadolo parish. You're right. If the animal, right, separated, meaning if right now the human being is separated from the mother, so then it's going to be parish, is going to be prohibited. Hadolo parish, but if it's not going to be parish, which means it didn't separate, right? So then it's going to be prohibited. The chilufa bedam, and the exact opposite is by blood. What does that mean? Because the Tanya is we learned to write that. Dam shal gabe kikar. Let's say I have here bread, right? And you have blood of a human being on top of the bread. So therefore, in such a case, gorero ve'ochlo, you have to take it off, you scrape it off, and then you're allowed to eat the bread. But ben shinaim, let's say you're bleeding in between your teeth. Yeah? Motzetzo ve'no choshesh, you could suck that blood, right? You could suck that, no, not on your finger. Your finger's a problem, right? But why? Because if it's inside of your mouth, right? So therefore, there's no problem because you're allowed to drink that blood. The blood of a human being is not a problem, but that's only if lo piresh. If it was piresh, it would be an isur, right? The opposite, piresh separates, right? But by the woman, it's exact opposite. Kozvan shelo piresh, as long as he did not separate from his mother, which means that he was always feeding from his mother, there's no isur of the chalab from the mother. But if he separated, so then it is. So Amar more comes and he asks the following question. Rabbi Yoshua says that even in 4 or 5 years, it's going to be okay. Says, what are you talking about? I thought that Rabbi Yoshua comes and he says that even if he's got a chavila on his shoulders, even though he's carrying something on his shoulders, it's still going to be permitted without any problem. So he says, no, it's the same shield, which means when a child is 4 or 5 years old, that's when he starts carrying things on his shoulders. So it's the exact same measurement. It's the same time frame. So Rabbi Yosef says of Yosef, the halacha is like Rabbi Yoshua. So it comes out that as long as he wasn't separated from his mother, right? It could be 4 or 5 years and it's still going to be okay. Okay? Next. Tanya, we learned on the Braita. Rabbi Marinus Omer, Rabbi Marinus says, Goneach yonek chalav b'Shabbat. Somebody that's goneach. Goneach is somebody that has heart problems. So he's hurting because of heart problems. Yonek chalav b'Shabbat. He's allowed to even feed on Shabbat from a goat for his refuah. Now, even though you're not allowed to milk a goat on Shabbat, here you're allowed to. My time, what's reasoning? Yonek is mefarek kelachar yad. Yonek, if you go directly and you're sucking from the goat, so that's called mefarek kelachar yad. That's not the normal. How do you milk usually? You come and you milk inside of a container, and then you give it to the people to drink. Here, he's drinking directly from the goat. So therefore, that is kelachar yad. Anytime that you milk, it's called mefarek. Mefarek is a tolodav dash. What is dash? You're threshing. You're taking out from the fruit from the, meaning like the food from the produce. So the same thing, when you're going to milk an animal on Shabbat, you're doing mifarek tolada of dash. Okay, dash is threshing. It's a tolada. It's a subcategory of that. So therefore, he says, bimkom tzara logos rubanan. Since he's suffering, the rabbis did not make that prohibition. Because remember, anything which is kilachar yad is like a shinu. Kilachar yad means that it's done in a not normal way. So Rav Yosef says the halacha is also like Rabbi Marinu. We learned in the Braita. Nachum Ishkalia says sinor shalu bo kashkashim. Right? When you have here we're talking about a sinor is like the gutter, right? That means basically it has the water from the roof, and all of a sudden now there's kashim asabim that it's blocking the gutter. You could come privately and crush it with your feet on Shabbat. So you like press down, right? So that way. You're not going to be worried about the Chilul Shabbat. My time out reasoning. This is also metaken kelachar yad. You're fixing something, but it's kelachar yad. So since you're going to lose out, because if the gutter gets clogged, you had it. So he says the rabbis did not make a decree. Amar Rav Yosef says of Yosef also the halacha is like Nachum Ishgalia. Okay, nekuda. Next, piresh leachar 24 chodesh v'chazar kiyunek sheketz. We said that if a woman she stopped nursing her child after 2 years. And then again, she starts. So what happens is like yonek sheketz, the kama, right? How long does it have to be that she stopped nursing the child that it's considered that he stopped? So if she stopped for 3 days, that's it. It's a pasek. She made the pasek for 3 days after 24 months, after 2 years. That's it. She cannot start again. Because if not, it's yonek sheketz. Right? He says. Other people say it was Rabbi Yehuda Bar Chaviva Kamedi Shmuel, not in the name of Shmuel, but rather in front of Shmuel, Shosha Yamim, 3 days. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Meneket. What about a meneket? Shemet Bala, that the husband died within the 24 months. She's not allowed to get engaged or get married. Why? Because now remember, one more time, the husband died. So now the husband cannot come and force her to nurse anymore. He can't even pay her to nurse anymore. He died. He's done. But she's not allowed to get married. Why? If she gets married within the 2 years and then she becomes pregnant, what happens? So then it becomes a problem. Okay? Because then it's going to stop. So it's going to be a very big problem. Okay, until 24 months. That's what he says. Ad Esirim V'Arba Chodesh is the words of Rabbi Meir, Samech Hamubet, 60b. Right? Rabbi Yehuda says that she's going to be permitted to get married Chodesh after 18 months. Amar Rabbi Natamar Yosef says in Natamar Yosef, Hen and Divir Bet Shammai, these are the words of Bet Shammai, Hen Divir Bet Hillel, right? Or Rabbi Bet Hillel. Shebet Shammai only means something about Chodesh. Bet Shammai says like Rabbi Meir, 24 months, and Bet Hillel says until 18 months. Right? Amar Ishbon Shimon Gamliel says Shimon Gamliel, Ani Achriya, I'm going to be Machriya LeDivrei Omer 24 Chodesh. I'm going to say it's 24 months. Muter li Naseh be-21 Chodesh. She's allowed to get married in 21 months. LeDivrei Omer, but according to the Mandam, it says 18 months. Muter li Naseh be-15 Chodesh. She's allowed to become right to get married in the 15 months. Lefi she'ena chalav ne'ekad ela le'achar 3 chodashim, because the chalav is only going to become bad only after 3 months, which means that even though she became pregnant, she could still continue giving to milk her child for 3 months until it becomes bad. You understand? Amar says Alachazak of Yehuda, which means that she's permitted to get married after 18 months. I was permitted to get married even after 15 months. So there was an Adis of Abaye that came in front of him to ask him halacha. Remember, the Adis was a sharecropper. So in the olden days, they used to have a sharecropper, which means you would have somebody come to their field and they would work in their field and then they would get paid for it. So Amaleh Mahu, so he comes and he says, what's alachava mineket? Is she permitted to get married le'ares be-15 chodesh or not? Amaleh, he said, Chada de Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda, says it's a machloket between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Right? The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore it's going to be permitted after 15 months. We hold them furthermore, Bet Shammai Bet Hillel halacha Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai Bet Hillel is going to be permitted to Bet Hillel, and they said after 15 months. The Amar Ula says, halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Murut Vali Tir Rabbi Chanina said the halacha 15 chodesh. Koshken the at le'ares, so it's permitted that that you want to only just do irusin. That you only just want to come and do irusin. Right? You don't want to do nisuin. There's a difference between irusin and nisuin. Obviously not. Irusin is the first stage of marriage. There's no relations. Right? So when he came in front of Yosef, he said, Rav Shmuel Damer Tavayu, Rav Shmuel said, Seichal Amtin and 24 chodesh to wait 24 months, except for the day, meaning besides the day, right, that he was born and the day that she was getting nitareset. So once a buyer heard that he paskined not properly, Rahat batre tlata parseh. He ran after the Aris 3 parsaot, ve'amri len a parsa, bechala, in a place of hole, of sand, which is difficult to run. Ve'lo adreche, but he wasn't able to get him. What does that mean? Basically, when his sharecropper came and he asked him the psak halacha, he wanted to be mekel. So he wanted to be mekel because machloket Bet Shammai Bet Hillel, you go like Bet Hillel, machloket Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda, you go like Rabbi Yehuda, v'chule. So there was all. But all of a sudden, when they came in front of Rav Yosef, remember, Rav Yosef was a Rosh Yeshiva. Rabbi and Rav Yosef were the Rosh Yeshivot, and Rabbi and Abaye were the students. When Abaye heard that Rav Yosef came and he gave a psak, that Rav and Shmuel both said no, you have to wait 24 months, so that was a problem, right? So he went running back, right? He went running back. Here he says halacha like Rabbi Meir because we go like Rabbi Meir b'gzerotav, and he's a gzerot. Meaning usually we pass like Rabbi Yehuda against Rabbi Meir. But when Rabbi Meir came and he gave a gzera, a decree, we pass like Rabbi Meir in his decrees. So for this is like a decree. So because of that, you have to wait 24 months. Amar Abaye comes and he says, "Ha milta de amar Rabbanan." This is what the rabbis say. Afilu biata bekutcha. Even a beitza, you're allowed to eat it with kutach, which means an egg. You're allowed to eat it with cheese, which was like milk. Lo lisha imish bimkom rabeh. A person should not paskin and write together, which means a person should not come and say that it's going to be permitted to eat together. Lo mishum de mixi kapkiruta, not because it looks like a spot for his rabbi, mishum de lo misayim talimim, because he doesn't have siyata d'shma to say it. Deha ana avad gamirna, right? Lehad Rav Shmuel, because we taught this of Rav and Shmuel that the meneket has to wait 24 months. And still we don't have the siyata d'shma to paskin like that. And I forgot the words, right, to do with the question that we had. So it comes out that Abaye came and he said, that which the rabbis say, that even you're allowed to eat, like a egg with milk, right? A person shouldn't permit it. Why? Because sometimes he should always ask his rabbi, egg with milk. Technically, egg, why is egg not meaty? An egg comes from an animal, from a chicken.
Okay.
So it should be meat. and then you should, but you're allowed to eat it with milk. You're allowed to eat milk with egg. But why? So it's permitted. No, so you're allowed to. But that you should, even with something which is so simple, you should still ask your rabbi why. Because it's not because it's chutzpah. If you're going to say it's permitted, because we know that it's not, but rather because sometimes you don't have siyata dishmea to pass it. At the end of the day, certain times a rabbi, when he has to give a psak, he has a certain heavenly help. That all of a sudden somebody will come and they ask you a question, and you answer one way. Somebody comes running, but Rabbi, you just told me, but what? And all it was minas shamayim that you gave that answer, and you don't even know why. But Hashem just put it in your head to give that answer, right? So therefore, sometimes it's heavenly help. So he says, that's what Abaye said. Abaye said, I should have asked my rabbi, because even though it was so simple that really you have to wait 24 months, he made a mistake. And he told the guy after 15 months that it's going to be permitted to get married. And really you have to wait 24 months. Okay? So therefore, you should always ask. Learn to the Braita. Tanu Rabbanan, learn to the Braita. Natna bena lemeneket ugimanto, right? Omet muter lesemiyad. What happens though if this woman, again, the husband died or divorced or whatever the case was, she gave the woman, right, right, the husband died, and now she gave the child to another woman, right, to feed, and she was paying him. Or she already stopped, meaning that's it, that now he's already not feeding anymore from her, right? Or the child died. In all these three cases, she's permitted to get married immediately. Why? Because now there's no reason to stop her. The Papa, they wanted to do exactly like that, which was written, that what? They wanted to permit her to get married even within the time of the Anakah. So there was a zikina that said, Rav Nachman. And Rav Nachman prohibited to me. That she wanted to come and to stop it, right? To stop early, or she wanted to give her child over to somebody else to pay, and Rav Nachman prohibited it. So says the Gemara, any is it so? Rav Nachman Rav Nachman permitted it to the Bnei Shkaluta. So answers the Gemara, the Bnei Shkaluta, these were like the Bnei Shkaluta was like the head of the Jewish, like they were like the princes, they were like the presidents of all of Babel or of all of, all these places. So if they're going to do that, they're not going to retract. So since they're not going to retract and they're going to do it, so therefore they have the power in their hands. So therefore if they gave the child to somebody else and they paid them for the 2 year, it's okay. There is something different. So Amar lehu Rav Papi comes and he says, Ve'atun lotis berua. You guys don't hold me at the Tanya that which we learned in Braita. What happens if the woman, when she was married, she was always accustomed to go into her father's house? Yeah? And she was there even before it was going to be his death. Or shayala kas vebala, or she was upset with her husband, and therefore she wasn't with her husband for 3 months. Or the husband was in jail. Or he went to the Medinat Hayam, the diaspora. Or the husband was sick. Old, or sick. Or she's sick, or not so sick. She's barren, right? She's sterile, or she's too old. Or she's a ktana or nailonit, that she can't have children. Or she's mapelet right after the death of the husband. She cannot have children. She still needs to wait 3 months. See what I mean? Which means like this. What did we just say? We just said that in any case that she gave over the child, so then after 3 months, then what? She can get married immediately. But she still has to wait 3 months. In all these cases, she still has to wait 3 months according to Rabbi Meir, right? From the death of the husband. Even though he was in jail, even though he was in the diaspora,
the reason is
what? That they made a gezerah and they didn't permit.
That was based upon reason.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously the gezerah was a normal case, but they didn't want to make the exception to the rule.
Rabbi
Yosef, lo plu. So Rabbi Yosef matir le'aretz v'nesim. Rabbi Yosef though he permitted in all these cases. That he's halakha like Rabbi Meir and his gezerot, right? So it comes out that in all these cases, right, it's going to be prohibited. Why? Because they didn't want to start making, but how long was he in jail? Wasn't in jail? How old is he? Not how old is he? Can she still give birth? She thinks that she had menopause, maybe 2 minutes, she still was able to. You understand? They didn't want to come and start. So therefore, boom, smack on. 3 months, come on, no, there's nothing what to talk about. Right? Or what? 3 months. So says the Gemara, so they told her, Papi, lava dati, right? We forgot. We didn't remember this Braita. That means you're right. We didn't remember this Braita, and therefore we permitted immediately. You're right. You have to wait 3 months, like Rabbi Meir. Met mutar. If he dies, if the child dies, it's mutar, right? Gimalatu. But if she stopped feeding him, it's a sur. Right? Why? Because then we're going to suspect that maybe she purposely stopped feeding him early, in order to get married. Even if he dies, Nami Asur, she's going to be prohibited to get married.
Wow.
Because maybe she killed him in order to get married. It was actually a story of a woman that she actually strangled her own child in order to go and to get married. So you see from here that sometimes a woman will do that just in order to get married. Right? She wanted to get married. Now this child is stopping her from getting married, and she'll do a crazy thing. So it says, but it's not true. She was a shota. Because a woman would not normally come and start mamash strangling their own children. You understand? That means that don't start taking these stories because it's not normal. Okay, fine. Right? He says right now, what happens if they gave her a child to feed? She cannot, which means if right now they gave a meneket, right, a child to feed, so she should not feed with her, not her own child or ben chaverta, right? Why? Paska kima, right? If right now, right, the mother of the child, right, said that she has to get enough, so then she has to eat a lot in order that she should have a lot of milk and that he shouldn't die because of obviously of lack of nutrients and everything else. Okay, so this is actually just very, very interesting. So now the Gemara says, "Lo tochal limod dvarim harraim lechalav." So now the meneket cannot eat things which are bad for milk. Okay, so says the Gemara, "Hashta bena amarta lo ben chaverta." One second. If for her own child she's not supposed to do this, so now for the son of her, meaning like another child, right? You have to actually say that it's a sur. What does that mean, right? So he says, I would have thought say benahu dechai. I would have said, listen, she has mercy on her own child. So therefore, she's going to have more milk for her own child, for the one that she's getting nursing for. One more time, somebody comes and he gives to a wet nurse, here, I'm paying you, feed my child, right? Now this woman has her own child. So says Halakha, she cannot feed her own child with this child. So says the Gemara, not only her own child, she cannot feed another child with this child. So she cannot take money from two different people to start feeding the baby. So says the Gemara, if you already told me that this woman, this wet nurse, cannot feed her own child with the child that she was getting paid for, Kal v'chomer, she's not going to be able to feed another child. So they're going to know. I would have thought that only her own child is going to be prohibited, because that means she's giving much more to feed to her own child because she wants her own child. But if it's going to be ben chaverta, if it wasn't extra, she wouldn't give it. That it's still going to be asur. So paska kima, right? If right now the mother comes and she starts giving ochelet arbet, so she's going to give, right? That means basically what happens is that she says that you have to give a little bit of food in order that she should eat, in order that she will be able to have food, milk to nurse. Meheicha, who has to pay for that? Amarav sheshat mishela, from her own. What does that mean? We're going to say that if she was mirutza, that means basically if she's happy with the wages, then she has to pay for her own food. But if not, then obviously no. But it's mashma that whatever they're paying her, that's already enough that she would have food in order to come and to start, feeding, right, from the child. So says the Gemara, you're not allowed to eat bad things for milk. Meaning, what is that? Pay attention. This is things which are asked all the time. Amar Rav Kana says, Kigon keshut v'chaziz. We're talking about like asabim of zerat fuah. Talking about like different herbs, right? It was called keshut, right? It says over here, okay, it doesn't actually say in English what it is. They use it for making beer. Cress. Does it say cress? Hops. So hops. Hops. The dagim tanim, small
Grain
fish.
sproutings.
Grain sprouting, small fish. Adama. Adama is earth. Yeah. It says that Adama, eating earth, is actually a refuah for certain things, so she can't eat this because it's not good for the milk. Abaye says, afilu kra, the chavusha, even chavush and kashut. Squash and quince. That's what it was.
What's quince?
What?
What's
Yeah. Right? The kufra. What is kufra? Kufra, sorry, the papa manafilu kora, even, right, the kora, which is something which goes on the palm trees. Kora, palm shoots, right? So he says the kufra or tmarim, small dates, right? Dates when they're very, very small, that means they're not ripened. Ravashi amar afilu kam chayiv kutach, which is like the cottage cheese type of thing. Okay? So he says v'harsenar. Harsenar is like small fish which are mitugan, which are fried, right, with shuman and everything with kemach. Yeah. So minayu paske chalva, minayu avdi chalva. So some of them actually cause milk to stop, and some of them actually cause that the milk will become bad. So that means all of these things that we just mentioned now, some of them stop the milk, and some of them just make the milk bad. Okay, but it didn't say which ones was which. Okay, the misham shebe rechaya, right? The one, if a woman is going to come and be mishamesh mitata, right, by a mill, and then she becomes pregnant, havulu benin nichbe, she's going to have children which they have epilepsy, right? Now, what is the connection here? Because we're talking about that just like a woman that she eats something, has a negative concept on the milk, so too the Gemara is going to speak about other foods, right? That if she does it when she's having the relations, it's going to have also on the body of the human being. She's going to have relations when she's on the floor. She's going to have children which they are very, very long necks, very tall children. If she's right now on a woman that she's dorechet al tzoat chamor, that means she's stepping on the excrement of a donkey, she's going to have children where their hair just falls out.
She's pregnant?
Yeah. The achla chardila, she's going to start eating chardal. Chardal is mustard when she's pregnant. She's going to have children which are gargaranim. They're glutens, right? The achle tachle is something that they like to eat a lot, right? Gluton, right? The achle tachle, she's going to eat shachalaim. Shachalaim is cress. She's going to have children which they're always like tearing. They have tears coming out of their eyes. The achle munenim, she's going to eat small fish. She's going to have children which their eyes are always moving, right? That means either small eyes or whatever. The achle gargushtav, she's going to eat this type of a chomer. I don't know what it is. It says tita dom, clay, red clay. She's going to have ugly children. The shatya shichrab, she's going to start drinking beer. Black children, like the dark skin. The achla bisra v'shatya chamra, she's going to be eating meat and drinking wine. Havelu b'nei bariyeh, she's going to have children which are going to be very healthy. The achla beh, she's going to be eating eggs. Right, just another one line. It says over here, havelu b'nei inane, she's going to have children with big eyes. So she eats a lot of eggs, big eyes. The achla kav, she's going to eat fish. Havelu b'nei chinane, she's going to have children which have a lot of grace. The achle karpasa, she eats karpas, the celery. She's going to have children which are very good looking. The achle kusparta, she's going to be kuzbira. Kuzbira is cilantro, no? Coriander. Coriander. She's going to have fat children. The achle droga, she's going to eat etrog. Children which have good smell. We continue with
Thank you, Rabbi.